An over-leveraged studio, a fickle sponsor, a crowded market, technical compromises, an attempt to produce a movie with pre-existing material for an animated series produced with pre-existing material that was out of pre-existing material. Would you believe that the creator of the franchise called it the worst experience of his professional career? Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the history of Robotech, the movie. Robotech the Movie is a 1986 animated feature film produced by Harmony Gold and Tatsunoko Productions, distributed by Canon Films. Yes, the same Canon Films that brought you films like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and Aladdin. In 1999, an alien spaceship crashed on Earth. Hidden on board were the secrets of a unique science known as robotechnology. Databanks found in the ship were transferred to the Earth Robotech computer complex. 10 years later, in 2009, an alien search party arrived from hyperspace to reclaim their lost databank. The United Earth government was forced into an intergalactic war. Earth forces were able to win the first battle, but at great cost. The planet, Earth, was virtually destroyed. Over time, new population centers grew out of the ashes. It is now the year 2027. A second armada sent by the aliens is nearing Earth. They've come to recapture the secrets of their lost technology and then literally destroy the Earth. Mark Landry finds himself in the middle of it all when his friend Todd, a soldier in the Army of the Southern Cross, gives him a stolen prototype motorcycle that just happens to be a mobile terminal for the alien computer and also a transforming robot in and of itself. Todd is killed before Mark knows exactly what's going on, but he'll soon find out that he is the only one with the power to stop the invading aliens and prevent the destruction of Earth in Robotech, the movie. Thank you to KiwiCo for sponsoring this video. Go to kiwico.com/secretgalaxy to get 50% off your first month of a monthly KiwiCo subscription today. There's an educational revolution taking place, and it's called making stuff. With your brain, with your hands, learning skills that help you understand how the world works and how you can help make it better. Literally, how you can make things better. KiwiCo gives you or your child everything you need to not only build a monthly project, but learn about the process and use that knowledge long into the future when you're done. You're not just getting a cool project, you're getting so much more. But let me be clear, you are getting a cool project. KiwiCo can help bring the search for knowledge, exploration, and interaction into the real world with KiwiCo crates. Each monthly crate contains a project that is fun, educational, and produces an actual physical object you can continue to use like a lockbox to keep important things safe. KiwiCo's crates encourage hands-on activities, getting up out of your chair and making something, learning about everything from robotics to engineering, electric wiring, guitar stringing, art techniques, and more. So click the link in the description below now to get 50% off your first month of a monthly subscription by going to kiwico.com/secretgalaxy. Again, that's kiwico.com/secretgalaxy, and thanks again to KiwiCo. Robotech first aired in daily syndication in the US from roughly February to June of 1985. It was created by Carl Macek and produced by Harmony Gold USA. Harmony Gold was founded by Frank Agrama in 1976 to produce, license, and acquire films from around the world for domestic and international distribution. A chance meeting between Harmony Gold and Carl Macek in 1984 led to the creation of the Robotech franchise and its incredible success in the US. Robotech was an 85-episode, daily syndicated animated series adapted from 3 separate, unrelated Japanese animated series: Super Dimension Fortress Macross, Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross, and Genesis Climber Mospeada. There's a whole story as to how and why Carl Macek used 3 different Japanese animated series to create a single animated series in the US. This isn't that video. We have a lot more very in-depth coverage of that story in a series of previously produced videos. What's important to know for this video is that those 3 different Japanese animated series, while very similar in their visual design and storytelling, are still very different, and as such, represented 3 different chapters or eras within the Robotech universe. Episodes from 1982's Super Dimension Fortress Macross make up the first era called the Macross Saga, spanning the first 36 episodes of Robotech. 1984's Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross is the second era called the Masters and spans the next 24 episodes. And finally, 1983's Genesis Climber Mospeada is the third era called the New Generation and spans the final 25 episodes for a total of 85. Carl Macek was responsible for selecting all 3 series as well as developing the overarching story and supervision of the new scripts that tied all 3 unrelated Japanese series together for the American adaptation. Simple as that. While confident in the quality of the original Macross animated series, there was no way that Macek or Harmony Gold could have known that Robotech would be as popular as it was. For example, Matchbox acquired the master toy license for Robotech and had toys on the shelves by Christmas 1985 in a rush for the holiday season. Robotech was popular enough that Harmony Gold had an opportunity to extend it beyond a single season. But how to expand a series depended on pre-existing material when there was no more pre-existing material to adapt. All 3 Japanese series that made up Robotech had already been canceled years before in Japan. Robotech fans wanted to follow more adventures of Rick Hunter, Lisa Hayes, and Max Sterling as they existed in the US version. The Japanese Macross, its story and its characters had been altered just enough to exist as a unique narrative for the American Robotech. As such, the only way to continue the Robotech story was to create an original sequel series from scratch, which was far more expensive than adapting pre-existing material. Luckily, Matchbox expanded their role to become an active participant in the creation of the sequel series, like Hasbro with G.I. Joe and the Transformers. Additionally, Harmony Gold was able to pre-sell the all-new, all-original sequel series to 65 domestic television markets, accounting for more than half of US households. That revenue ensured that Harmony Gold had some initial funding to begin production. With that in mind, Macek began work on Robotech 2: The Sentinels, set after the 36 episodes of the Macross saga, but before the 24 episodes of The Masters. Things were going well as the original Robotech animated series drew to a close in the summer of 1985. Harmony Gold founder Frank Agrama appeared in a news feature where he discussed Harmony Gold's place in the animation industry and the potential for a Robotech feature film on the heels of the successful first season. Other popular daily syndicated series like Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Masters of the Universe were making the leap to feature films. It certainly made sense for Robotech to do the same. Menachem Golan, co-owner of Canon Films, saw the interview and knew Robotech could be a Canon movie. Canon Films was originally founded in 1967 by Dennis Friedland and Chris Dewey. By 1979, Canon was facing financial uncertainty, at which time they sold the company to cousins Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus for $500,000.
Canon Films, the home of high-powered, high-voltage, motion picture entertainment. With the screen's biggest spectacles, brightest stars, and boldest lineup of explosive entertainment.
From there, Canon began a historic run of churning out the best, cheapest scripts they could find. 1981's Enter the Ninja, 1982's Death Wish 2, 1983's Hercules, Revenge of the Ninja, Breakin', Ninja 3 The Domination, Missing in Action, Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, Rappin', Life Force, American Ninja, Death Wish 3?
I warned you! I tell you!
B-movies, action fodder, late-night fare, relatively moderate success after relatively moderate success. By 1986, Canon was churning out literally dozens of movies every year. The volume was the business. And not for nothing, but Canon recognized that Japanese animation and superheroes were the future. In addition to a potential partnership with Harmony Gold to produce a Robotech movie that would broaden the popularity of Japanese animation in the US, Canon Films also owned the rights to produce a movie based on Marvel Comics' Spider-Man.
Within this unsuspecting city, history's greatest experiment creates tomorrow's greatest superhero. Spider-Man, the movie. A live-action spectacular directed by Joe Zito, based on the characters created by Stan Lee.
The day after Agrama's television interview in the summer of 1985, he received a call from Steve Bloom, a representative of Canon Films, with a pitch for a joint production. A partnership between Harmony Gold's production and Canon Films' distribution, as long as a few criteria were met. 1. A Robotech movie had to be something that was new, with nothing that had ever aired on television. Canon didn't think people were going to pay to watch clips they already watched, which was ironic considering that is exactly what happened. 2, the movie should be in theaters by Christmas 1985. Yes, in less than a year. Carl Macek knew creating an original animated feature from scratch in that little time was not only technically impossible, but financially impossible. The most economical way to make a Robotech movie would be to adapt one that already existed.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Macek reached out to Tatsunoko, the creators and owners of Macross, to license their 1984 Macross feature film called Macross: Do You Remember Love? It was essentially a retelling/alternate depiction of the events that took place during the original Japanese animated series, with updated visuals produced with a bigger budget. And therefore, with a few edits and a little rewriting, could have been a retelling/alternate depiction of the events that took place during the first 36 episodes of Robotech. It would have bought time and been a perfect bridge to the sequel series that Macek had begun development on. It would have maintained fan interest and speculation about Robotech 2: The Sentinels if only Tatsunoko allowed Harmony Gold to use it. Tatsunoko declined to license the film to Harmony Gold just in case Tatsunoko decided to release it in the US at some future date to exploit the success of Robotech for themselves.
Pepsi te regala lo nuevo. Vasos Robotech. Viví tu aventura en el siglo XXI con la fortaleza SDF-1.
Adelante.
Robotech te trae a los valientes del espacio y los malvados Centraedis. Presenta 12 tapitas rayadas de Pepsi, Tim, Mirinda y Paso de los Toros. Y llévate tu vaso Robotech. Cerca de tu casa hay una galaxia Pepsi para presentar tapitas.
Unable to use Do You Remember Love, Carl Macek had to find something else that could be adapted into a feature film. What he found was an original Japanese animated film called Megazone 2-3, released in 1985. Produced by Artland and Art Mike, it was originally intended to be a 12-episode animated series that was recut into a film when the series lost its production sponsor before the series was completed. It's more common than you think. Megazone 2-3 was the story of humanity's future in the 24th century, as Earth was rendered uninhabitable by, we'll just say humans. Those same humans were forced to flee the planet in floating space colonies called megazones. Initially, the 2-3 referred to the particular megazone styled after Tokyo, Japan, and its 23 municipal wards. Although later, in 1986's Megazone Part 2 and 1989's Megazone Part 3, the 2-3 refers to the fact that it was the 23rd space colony built by humans to flee planet Earth. Macek developed a story outline for Robotech the movie based on a relatively direct adaptation of the events of Megazone 2-3. In order to be more hands-on with the simultaneous development of the Robotech sequel series, Macek went to Japan for 1 month and left production of Robotech the movie to the team in the US. While he was in Japan, representatives of Harmony Gold showed the in-production film to executives at Canon Films who did not like it at all. Canon requested several changes to the action, the pacing, and the visuals on screen. When Macek returned home for Thanksgiving in November of 1985, he was stunned to see what a hack job the film had become. According to Macek, with Harmony Gold and Canon still eyeing a December release, he was given, quote, 24 hours to remake the film. Canon said they wanted less talking, more guns, more shooting, more robots. Macek originally planned for Robotech the movie to take place during the events of the Macross saga of the original series, with Mark Landry digging into the government conspiracy to hide the truth about the disappearance of the SDF-1. The movie would have ended with the return of the SDF-1 on Earth as seen in episode 13 of Robotech. Macek, with no other options, rewrote the story to take place during the second era of the original animated series, The Masters, because that second era was created using episodes from Southern Cross, the newest footage produced from the 3 original animated series they used to make Robotech the series. Megazone 2-3 scenes were cut together with shots from Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross, including shots that had already appeared in the syndicated series, the exact thing Canon said that they did not want in the movie. Macek expressed his concern that, the aspect ratio, the literal dimensions of the frame for the television series Southern Cross was different from the movie Megazone 2-3, and to get them to match, the TV footage would have to be upscaled and, look like shit. I'm paraphrasing, of course. On top of that, Macek had to commission a new ending to be animated by the Idol Company, because the original ending of Megazone 2-3 would not work for the story. That said, Macek showed the new cut of Robotech the movie to Canon executives, including Menachem Golem, who loved it and proclaimed, quote, "Now that is a Canon movie." Production of the movie wasn't completed until early 1986, blowing past the Christmas 1985 deadline, and while Macek wasn't happy with the finished product, calling it, quote, "the worst experience of my professional career," he still had the sequel series Robotech 2 to look forward to. However, 1986 was a big year for syndicated television series with toy lines aimed at kids between the ages of 8 and 12. Matchbox wasn't the only one showing off new TV show-related product at Toy Fair. 1986 was, in fact, the most saturated syndicated children's television market in television history. The Transformers, G.I. Joe, Inspector Gadget, My Little Pony, it's on the list. Ulysses 31, Centurions, Ghostbusters, Silverhawks, Defenders of the Earth, Popple's Galaxy Ranger, Johnny Quest, Chuck Norris Karate Commandos, Rambo, The Force of Freedom, Rainbow Bright, it's on the list. Inhumanoids, Dennis the Menace, Potato Head Kids, Teddy Ruxpin, Jem, Thundercats, Heathcliff, it's on the list. She-Ra, and more. Robotech was just one show, one toy line in a vast sea of shows and toy lines, all vying for the same dollars on toy shelves, all attempting to stand out in the few hours in the morning before school and in the few hours after school before the news and prime time took over. At the same time, the US dollar was losing value against the Japanese yen on purpose. See, in September of 1985, the US, France, Germany, and Japan all got together for the Plaza Accords to intentionally devalue the US dollar against foreign currencies to rebalance trade around the world. When Robotech the movie and the sequel series Robotech 2 The Sentinels went into production, the Japanese animation studios were contracted to be paid in yen. As the dollar devalued rapidly in the first quarter of 1986, the cost to animate in Japan literally got more expensive as each day passed. By the time the sequel series Robotech 2 The Sentinels was in active production, the dollar lost nearly 25% of its value. It was enough to give Matchbox cold feet, who pulled their financial support for Robotech, fundamentally killing the sequel series with only 3 episodes completed. And also, since we're putting everything on the table, Canon's overzealousness with the quantity of films they produced for 1986 and purchase of a British theater chain and the legendary Elstree studio left them in a precarious financial position. A towering amount of debt that resulted in a $75 million bailout from Warner Communications, who ended up with partial ownership of Canon and the option to buy into the theater chain and the legendary Elstree studio.
Robotech fans, you've been so loyal to your favorite show that the Robotech Masters have chosen the Metroplex as the site of the world premiere of Robotech the movie. This Robotech feature has never been seen before anywhere in the entire galaxy. So when it gets here, the Channel 11 robots are going to head for the movies. The robots will be at the Valley View Mall on Friday, July 25th. Come play their computer game and try to win great Robotech prizes. Then make sure you see the premiere of Robotech the movie. It's the entertainment event of the galaxy in theaters all over the Metroplex.
Robotech the movie was test screened in theaters throughout Texas. Unfortunately for Robotech the movie, animated movies in 1986 were still assumed to be for children. Young children. And a movie that featured graphic violence, death, sexual assault, and more was not the kind of movie that parents were expecting to show their kids. That said, a movie with graphic violence, death, sexual assault, and more, is it canon? Yes! And Canon saw from the ticket sales data that adult tickets were selling in greater volume than kids' tickets, which is what happened with all Canon films. Canon saw an opportunity to make some strategic adjustments to the way Robotech the movie was marketed before they rolled it out to the rest of the country. But those adjustments and that rollout never happened. Canon delayed and delayed until finally they crossed it off the schedule completely. Despite promotional materials throughout 1986 stating that the film was coming soon to theaters near you, it never arrived. That said, it was still available in Canon's library for rental if theaters chose to screen it. It appeared sporadically on college campuses and at film festivals. It was released to theaters in Argentina and on video in parts of Europe. The official reviews were not that bad, good in some cases. Michael Price said, quote, "Harmony Gold, which represents much of the best work issuing from the animation studios of Japan, has delivered a thoroughly original big screen entry that dovetails with the continuing TV story. Much of the worth of Robotech derives from the customary Japanese respect for animation as a vehicle for more than juvenile silliness." And he continued to say that, quote, "The sturdy plot and identifiable characterizations bear mention in the same breath with George Lucas's Star Wars trilogy." Canon's freewheeling finances caught up with them. Multiple bombs headlined by 1987's Superman 4: The Quest for Peace and Masters of the Universe virtually ended the Golan Globus era of Canon films. An investigation into Canon's bookkeeping practices by the US Securities and Exchange Commission and subsequent purchase by Pathé Communications literally ended it. In 1988, Carl Macek started a new company called Streamline Pictures, who essentially did what Macek did on Robotech, import Japanese animation and adapt it for the American audience, but this time attempting to stay as true to the original as possible. And that included a VHS dub of Megazone 2-3 Part 1 in 1995 and DVD in 1998. In 2019, Animego ran a successful Kickstarter campaign to release all of Megazone 2-3 on Blu-ray in 2021. Macek's streamlined dub is included. Hard to call Robotech the movie a failure since it was never really given a chance to see if it could succeed. But the nature of its production and the lack of visibility for so many years leads one to ask the question, yes, it's a Canon movie, but is it canon? No, it's not. In fact, Harmony Gold's license for Megazone 2-3 expired, and the film, as it was originally produced, is no longer available anywhere. Harmony Gold has essentially disavowed it, and Carl Macek was not a fan. On the other hand, the events of the movie were adapted in a 1996 comic book series, and not for nothing, but various promotional materials have been featured on various Robotech DVD releases. Harmony Gold themselves have been known to sell versions of the Modat 5 transforming robot motorcycle featured in the movie. There's a half-hour version of Robotech the movie, minus all the Megazone 2-3 footage on the 2011 Robotech DVD box set. Is it canon? Yeah, maybe. But it's unlikely that it's ever going to be released in any format ever again, so don't hold your breath. On top of the licensing issues, the original negatives for the film were lost in a flood in the 90s, and nobody wants to go to the movie to watch television footage upscaled for a theater screen. It would look like shit.
I don't know what we're doing.
Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those of you who already are. Please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy. Several different tiers to address your specific Secret Galaxy content needs. Check out the Secret Galaxy merch shop at secretgalaxy.shop. All merchandise is physically in stock and ready to ship. Links to all of this in the description below. Let us know in the comments down below if you ever saw or even heard of Robotech the movie. I think I saw a poster, at least an image of the poster at some point, but didn't know there was even an attempt at a movie until very recently. That said, I was never a very big Robotech fan. I like the designs of the mechs and stuff, and the animation was gorgeous, but it just never connected with me. Now, after the amount of coverage we've done on Robotech, I think it's safe to say I'm even less of a fan than I was before I even knew anything about it.